Hi everyone, and welcome back to another virtual farm tour here at Chatsworth Farm. I wanted to start out with a few things. I hope you're enjoying the lovely sunny day we have. Still a bit breezy, but hopefully the sound quality will be good enough for you to hear. We're also doing open farm days this year. So Alberta Open Farm Days is hosted by Alberta Agriculture, and we're very excited to be participating in our very first open farm days this year. And our event is going to be on Saturday, August 15th. Some of the farms will be open both the 15th and the 16th, but we're going to be open on the Saturday. So more information is going to be coming soon about how to register for that. We are limited to the amount of people that we're able to have on the farm, as well as all of the farms because of COVID-19. So there are a total of 100 people allowed throughout the day on our property, and that includes the farmers and any of the additional helpers that we may have. So spaces are going to be fairly limited, but we'll post on our Facebook page about once registration goes live, and we're going to have time slots for the different times throughout the day. So if you're interested in seeing the farm in person rather than through Facebook Live, please check that out, as we're happy to have you visit the farm. And then we're also going to be doing a little bit of a collaboration with Get Cooking Edmonton. They are using one of our legs of lamb on Friday for their date night cooking class. So they're going to be making a butterflied and marinated lamb, and then some extra garden vegetables to go along with that. So if you're interested in doing a cooking class, I did one last week and they are lots of fun. We made a plowman's lunch and it was really great. So looking forward to this class. I'll also be joining them to talk about our farm and our lamb. We also just got lamb processed, so we have some legs of lamb available if you're interested in doing that. So we'll leave that in the comments below if you'd like to do some cooking with us. So back to the farm tour. I'm starting in our garden today since we haven't really shown much of that before, and it's looking really beautiful right now. So I'll switch this around. And we have quite a substantial garden this year. We have in front of me onions, carrots, beans, beets, potatoes, peas, and then there are also some poppies that are planted, especially in with the beets and the beans. So they just add a really beautiful pop of color. And between some of the rows we have straw, so this just kind of helps to suppress the weeds. It makes it a little bit easier. So we have some really lovely poppies. The peas are all pretty much almost taller than I am in some cases right here, and we've got a lot of them are still working on filling out, but there's still some in here that we've been picking and eating for lunches. And our corn, although our field corn is a little bit taller than our sweet corn, the sweet corn is probably up to, some of them is up to above, just below my shoulders a little bit. And we have tomatoes, and we also have some garlic. So this is our first year planting garlic, and it's doing really well. I got this garlic from a friend at Northlands where I used to work in the city. They have it at their urban farm. So we got a couple heads of garlic and we've planted them, and I think all of them came up. We've been using the garlic scapes. So those are these little curly-Q things that the garlic produces. So we've been using those in a bunch of meals over the last couple of weeks, and they add a really great flavor. So they taste just like garlic. And you don't really have to pull out the garlic, the heads of garlic. So this garden is mostly a family garden. We don't have a market garden. We don't have a CSA. It's just for us and for our family. So it is a little bit larger, and we also expanded on it a little bit this year, but my mom really enjoys gardening, so this is what keeps her busy throughout the summer. This little patch here is the squash. zucchini and pumpkins and watermelons. So with all the rain, everything has been sort of exploded in terms of the growing. And these are all the squash and the zucchinis. And then I can't remember how many hills of potatoes we planted. Well, Mom planted. But we have 4 rows. And some are different varieties. If you're interested in any of the names of varieties or where Mom has ordered the seeds from, just let us know and she'll put that in the comments, because we have some that she's picked from some different nurseries and some seed stores, so quite the variety. And then we also have some of these beans right here. These are scarlet runner beans. So they're quite pretty, and they take up pretty much the whole row along the potatoes, so they add a really nice pop of color. And we have cucumbers and dill and different varieties of peas and beans. And the scarlet runner beans really do run, so you can see how they're climbing up the page wire we have here. So that just helps everything that likes to send out little runners like the peas and the beans something to climb onto, so they're not falling all over the ground and attaching to the potatoes where they'll kind of strangle the potatoes. And then some of the really interesting plants here at the front. This was sort of a neat one. This is called borage. It looks really similar to a potato flower. And you can use them, they're edible, so you can use them in salads or as garnish, or just to add some color to whatever meal you have. And they're really quite pretty. So we have those along the front and some nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are also edible, so you can eat the petals of the flowers, and they come in a variety of colors. So they're these nice bright orange. These are a little bit more yellow with some orange with some nice stripes. Little deeper orange and some red. So if we step back, we can kind of see all the rows. And then we have the greenhouse. So in the greenhouse, there's some peppers. Some of the herbs are in the greenhouse, basil, tomatoes. But we're not going to go in there because the fan is on and it is quite loud. And the beans are just starting. And then Mom wanted me to show one of her nice poppies that are in bloom. So we have 2 different kinds of poppies. These smaller dainty ones are California poppies. So we have them planted in with the beans, or some of the beans. And then sort of the bigger, more traditional poppies. So this one's just about to bloom. And there's one over here that's just starting to open up, and it's really beautiful, lovely color. So we should have some more in the next couple of days. So that's the garden. We also have some raspberries and strawberries that have started that are just at the back, so they're not producing this year. But we have some existing plants that have given us already a lot of strawberries. Our Mom has made 2 batches of jam already, strawberry jam, and the raspberries are just starting to be ready. So I'm gonna grab Lizzie and we're gonna go for a walk to the corrals. Come on, Lizzie, come on. Kind of interrupted her nap. Come on. Hey. Good girl. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Open Farm Days because we're going to have one more virtual farm tour before then on August the 9th. And then there'll be one virtual farm tour the week after Open Farm Days. So we have a lot planned and we're very excited about it. One of the things that we're going to be doing, or giving you the option to do, is have a picnic in a pasture, or the pasture. And so this is one of our picnic spaces. So we have it fenced off. So we have the cattle in here right now, but we have an electric fence, but this electric fence isn't on. So I can touch it, but the cattle assume that all the electric fences are on, or anything that's up is live. So they're not going to touch it. So we have this beautiful space here with all the flowers. And if you're going to be joining us for Open Farm Days, we ask that you bring your picnic basket, a blanket, and some of your favorite snacks and enjoy a picnic here. We're not going to have any food on site, just to make everything safer for everybody. And we sort of love the picnic idea because they're very popular right now. So you can enjoy a picnic around, surrounded by these beautiful wildflowers. I can't remember their name right now, but I'll go and find that. So they're kind of all over this side of the pasture, and then it extends pretty much as far as the trees go. So we have lots of spaces. And because we have the cattle in here, we just have it fenced off. So the grass is nice. We don't have to worry about anything getting mucked up. So you can sit, enjoy whatever it is you brought in your basket of goodies, and watch the animals from a good distance. They won't bother you, and you won't bother them. We're also going to be doing guided farm tours. So we'll do the registration, we'll walk out, and we'll take a look at all the different animals at different stations and talk a bit about everything. Go back to the garden, we'll do a bit of a garden tour, so Mom will do that, as well as some machinery demos. So right where our yard is, it's in an alfalfa field, so we're able to just cut some of the hay that's right in our yard, and we're going to show you how we cut our hay for our cattle, as well as bale it. We're going to do a farm store. So we're going to have some of our beef and lamb and eggs available if you're interested in any of that. And it's just going to be a great day. We're hoping for good weather. And if you want to learn more, we have all the info on our website, and we'll be sure to share once everything goes live. So we're going to check out the cattle who are in the pasture right now. It's kind of an interesting bunch. It's a few of our steers, some of our bulls, the heifer bulls that we have pulled so far. So heifer bulls are bulls that are in with our heifers. They are the same age as the heifers, so they're just over a year. And some of our bulls that we have here just as backup. And we also have the horse and the ram in here. So if you're coming out for a picnic in the pasture at Open Farm Days with us, these will be some of the cattle or some of the animals you'll be sharing your picnic spot with. Little camera shy, I guess. So this is my quarter horse mare. Her registered name is JXL, Mia Goodbar, and then following closely behind her is our Suffolk Ram. So he and the horse stay very close together. They're quite bonded. So he's in with all of these guys right now to prevent the from the ewes from being bred, since we only breed our ewes once a year. And then you can see the bulls are kind of fighting right now. So because there are a bunch of bulls in this pen, they want to show their dominance, and it's kind of a daily thing for them, competing to see who's the top. And so some of the younger bulls will try and get in there, but it's mostly the older bulls, since they're trying to determine who's the biggest or who's in charge in here. So all the bulls go off and try and battle it out. All these bulls are Black Angus. We do have a few that are Hereford and then some Simmental, but they're not here. They're in with the cows right now. So these bulls have either been pulled out from their females, so the younger bulls are not in with their females for as long as the older bulls. And then some of these bulls are the backup ones. And back here, everyone who's not going to be participating in any of the fighting because they don't need to are the steers. So this is this red steer is one of our steers, and so is this black one. And then there's another one behind us. So these are our beef cattle. So these are the animals that we eventually will use for meat. And then behind are just 2 cows that are back here and one of their calves. So they're all going to head off, probably just move to another shady spot. So this pasture that these cattle are in it doesn't have any natural water sources. Oh, and we have a cat with us too. Hi, Mama. It doesn't have any natural water sources, and you need to be able to provide your livestock, your horses, your cattle, your sheep, with water, especially in the summer. So we don't have any power out here either in this pasture, but we do have a dugout, and you can kind of see the dugout. If you look where those bulls are, that's where the dugout starts, or kind of ends actually. So the dugouts, you're able to dig them on your own property. You do have to get some permits from your county to be able to dig a dugout, and you can't just dig them wherever you'd like. So we have one here, and during the spring it fills up with all the snow and all the runoff. And it's in a lower spot as it is, so there is a lot of water here just in general. The bulls are really putting on a show today. So some of our cattle have different types of access to water. Some will have dugouts like this. Others will have watering bowls that are electric, that draw well water up from the ground. Or some actually have naturally occurring streams or rivers that they're able to access water from, or just big sloughs. So some of the fields and some of the pastures are a little bit different. So you always have to make sure that they have water, and on dry years, you might need to give them extra water in case some of those low spots evaporate or dry up. So we have the cat following me here, and even the cat is panting. She's hot. And just like dogs, cats pant as well because they don't have sweat glands, so they're not able to sweat like people are. So pretty much all animals pant. Chickens pant, and they'll kind of lift up their wings to cool off. Sheep will pant. Cattle will as well. So pretty much any farm animal you can think of, they'll all pant. They're just not as, they don't do it as commonly as dogs do. It has to be quite warm for them to really start to try and dissipate that extra heat. Taking a bit of a different route today. So here we have one side where the horse, ram, bulls, and some of the steers and the cows are, and then on the other side is just the farmyard side. So you can kind of see that in the grass too, the grass that it hasn't been touched and then the grass that has been chewed down a little bit. We also have another electric fencer here. So electric fencers are really great for temporary fences or places that you need to fence off but you don't want to use posts and wire. So we just use rebar, and then we have this wire. It's a little bit like string, but it does have some wire that's intertwined within it. And then the little white part is called an insulator. And so that insulator keeps the wire from only electrifying the wire. So if you were to touch the rebar, you're not going to get a shock. If you're to touch the insulator, you're not going to get a shock. The only way you're going to get a shock is if you touch the actual wire itself. And the cattle know that. And once they know it, they only have to touch it once. And they'll know, and they'll never touch it again, really. And that just allows us to manage our pastures or any of our little spaces. So just like the little area I have roped off for the picnic in the pasture, we have that just roped off and it's not even live and the cattle know not to go near it. But then you can use just regular fences, so something that's a little bit more permanent. So you can either, as I do, I just go under the fence sometimes because my shoes don't have great insulation to them anymore. Or if you have rubber boots, because they are rubber, you can just step on the fence and you're not going to get a shock. But if I were to touch this one, I'd get a little bit of a shock. So we're going to check on some of our chicks and ducklings and goslings in here. So I've moved some animals around over the weekend, so we have a little bit of a different group in here now. So we have our ducks. We had some goslings show up randomly. I wasn't expecting any of my geese to have goslings at this stage, and these guys I think are now a week and a half old. So they just were in the yard one day and we went to go get them. So we've added them to this group since none of the females seem to seem like they were the mother. So we were a little bit perplexed by that. So the goslings are in here with the chicks and the ducks. The ducks really aren't ducklings anymore. They're pretty much fully grown. But it's good to have them in here with the goslings since they forage and feed in the same way, and it kind of gives the goslings a little bit of a it gives the goslings someone to teach them. And then these are pretty much all chicks that have hatched out in the incubator. So this is one of the little chicken tractors and we move it every morning so they get fresh grass. So this is the biggest one. And then we have two smaller ones. And the two smaller ones have hens with chicks in them. So these chicks, and we just have it attached. There's wire and a little door. So this hen hatched all these chicks out. So these are her own chicks, but they're not genetically related to her since I just gave her some of the eggs that I wanted to have her hatch out, and she did just that. And she has 10, and they're doing really well in here, and she'll be able to come out once she starts laying eggs, probably in a couple weeks. She can hop out and the chicks will be just fine by themselves. And you can see the chicks hop on her back, and that just kind of gives them some height when they're trying to catch bugs, or just give them a better vantage on their pen. So these chicks. I have one more hatch that's going on in the incubator right now. So I put them in on Thursday. So they take 21 days to hatch. I'm hoping that by August 13th, so 2 days before Open Farm Days, we will have some fairly newly hatched chicks, so I'm crossing my fingers for that, and that'll likely be our last hatch of the year unless some of the hens decide to go broody, and I'll put some eggs under them. The hens haven't been let out yet for the afternoon. Bit of delay letting them out during tour days because it's kind of fun to watch them all come out. Kind of opening up the gates and everyone just runs right out. And the reason why I keep them locked in for a little bit longer in the morning, so the geese who are over there, they get let out as soon as we come out and do chores, so that's first thing in the morning. The hens have their release a little bit later in the day, and that's to prevent them from laying eggs all over the yard. So if they're kept in their hen house up until noon or around noon, they will have laid a majority of their eggs in the nest boxes where they're supposed to and where it's easiest for us to collect them. So that just makes sure that we're not having kind of an Easter egg hunt. Some of the hens will still decide to maybe lay their eggs out in certain spots, but as long as we give them enough time, they'll pretty much lay their eggs all in the nest boxes. So we have a few eggs here already. And we have one hen. So they can get a little bit, depending on the hen, they can be a little bit more friendly than others when we're trying to get their eggs. So what I do when I go to grab them is I'll usually put my hand in, and you can kind of judge the hen on how she's reacting. So this one's not overly impressed that I'm going in to grab her eggs. So what I do, I'll put my hand in, and she's gonna hop out anyway. And she has nothing, so. Oh, girls. So we have some green eggs, some blue eggs, some pink eggs, a white one. So those are the eggs that we have so far. The hens will slow down a little bit in the summer. And then depending on their age and just depending on if they're molting or not, they'll kind of change their egg production. So that's why I'm hatching a bunch more chicks out so I can kind of increase our flock of hens. So as I was saying, when I go in there to go grab eggs, usually the hen doesn't hop out, but sometimes they do. I'll just stick my hand in and I'll put it over her head to kind of cover her eyes. And that just helps keep them calm a little bit. It's like with a lot of animals. If they can't see what's happening, they kind of calm down a little bit. So put my hand over her eyes, and then from there I'll just reach my hand under. And sometimes they'll let you grab the eggs, no problem. Other times they'll give you quite a peck on the knuckles or in between the knuckles, and that hurts a little bit. So they get you just in the perfect spot. We have the kittens that we probably haven't shown for a little bit. They're getting quite big now. They're still in their little tub. So we have the older kittens, and then we have the younger kittens. So we'll go in and take a look at them. And I think the mom might be in here too. Nope, she's not. This is our tub O kittens. So there's 6 in this litter, and Chloe is the mom. She's probably just off walking around the yard right now. So they're almost at the point where they can come out, but they're pretty content in their little tub right now, and the mom hops in to feed them. And we'll give them a little bit of milk. They're still too little to eat cat food, but we'll give them something. If we have anything that's a little bit softer, we'll give them some of that. And they all pretty much match the mom's coloration. So she's kind of a cream colored calico. So she has that kind of pink in her and that gray. And a couple of the kittens stew. And then one's that orange color and a little tabby cat. So a very fun litter of kittens. And always a crowd favorite. So we'll say goodbye to those kittens for now. And most of the other cats, because it is getting quite warm right now, most of the other cats go and find somewhere shady to go lie down and get out of the sun. So they're not around here right now, but they're somewhere hiding. We're going to go check out the broilers and the newly hatched chicks. So I hatched out some more chicks on last weekend, I think. So we're going to go look at those. And there's the dog and a cat, but not one of the other kittens. So we have our broilers, our turkeys, and any of our smaller chicks that have been hatched out in the incubator rather with a broody hen. They're in our barn. It just has lots of outlets for power because you need to be able to provide heat for the chicks and the turkey poults. And it's just a good, easy space for us to keep them in for now. Once they all get a little bit bigger, they can go outside and roam around the big cow pen that we have right here. There are no cattle in it right now, so it's a great spot for them. But otherwise, we just give them lots of grass and weeds. So I go and pick those usually twice a day. Turn the lights on. So in here we have the youngest chicks. So it sort of seems each time that we do one of these, we have more new babies, but that's sort of how it goes. So these are some of the chicks that just recently hatched out. So they're a mixed bunch. So some of them are lavender Orpingtons. So those 3 in a row in the middle, those are the lavender Orpingtons. And there's one more. And then the rest are crosses. So they're going to either lay some brown eggs, or they're going to lay some blue or olive colored eggs. I'm not able to tell until they start laying those eggs, so it's always a surprise. And they've already started to grow their feathers. Chicks start growing their feathers really quickly. So pretty much the day after they hatch, they start growing their feathers. So I have them in this little pet carrier cage. Since you never want to mix different age chicks together, especially when they're this small. So once they get a little bit bigger, you can start to play with the different ages and mix them up in the different pens. But once they're, when they're still this little, you need to keep them separate so everyone is the same age. Because otherwise you're going to have some of the bigger ones, since they all kind of huddle up for warmth, even with the heat lamps, the bigger ones can kind of get in the way and push out the little ones. So those are the little chicks right now, and they won't be still the smallest. They'll get replaced by the ones that are hatching out on the 13th, so we'll have some new tiny ones. These are our broilers. These are our meat birds. So some of them hop out and they hop in between different pens. And we're going to open this up so they can all have access to wherever they want to go. But for now, we have some that kind of hop in and out. And they have feed and water over here, plus all the weeds that they can eat. And then the other ones that kind of like to stay in their pen are over here. And they still have their heat lamps, and you can see that some of them are under the heat lamps. and that's just to provide them with warmth, since as they're growing their feathers, it's hard for them to maintain their own body temperature. So they need something to help them with that. And the broiler chicks are quite inquisitive, so they like pecking on whatever it is that's new in their environment. They especially like shiny things. So I have a ring on, so they're going to go pretty much straight at that. So they get quite drawn to anything that's kind of new. So, and that's enough of that, because they have quite sharp beaks. So we raise these broiler chicks for about 14 weeks, and then we take them to be processed. And 14 weeks is pretty much the really slow end of raising broilers. So some commercial poultry barns will raise them for 7 to 8 weeks. So 14 weeks is a little bit longer, but we like to be able to feed them that way, let them go outside, forage, and it takes them a little bit longer to get to their desired weight when they're outside foraging, but it's definitely better for them. And they'll be able to go do that once they're a bit bigger. So give them 2 more weeks, and then they can go outside by themselves. And there's a lot out just outside this barn. There's a lot of really great, a great area for them to scratch and dig around in. Chickens love dirt, so that's one thing that they'll have lots of. Our turkeys are also in here. They got a little scared. Our turkeys are also in here, but it's kind of hard to tell which are turkeys and which are broilers, since the broilers, again, hop all over the place and hop in and out. So the taller ones are the turkeys. And everyone is white, so it's a little bit tricky to differentiate them when they're all in a pen together. So this is where, once the chicks get a little bit bigger, this is the pen this is the area that they can go in. This was our calving pen, or this is what we call our big cow pen, and this is where we calve out cows and calves in March and April. And there's nothing in here right now, and all the manure and straw has been pushed up into that giant pile. So we push everything up, it goes into a pile, we allow it to sit and kind of break down, so it's pretty much just like a giant compost. And then once it breaks down a little bit more, we use that and we spread it back on our field, so we're able to reuse the whole process, so that the animals eat the grass that was grown on those fields, and then there's the manure. The manure gets piled in with the straw, and then that goes back onto the field. So it's one big circle, one big life cycle of plant material. And this manure or this compost helps to enrich the soil and allows you to get a better yield off your hay or your cover crop or your cereal grains, whatever it is you're growing. So right now it's pretty bare, but for a chicken, this is paradise. So looking forward to be able to let the chicks out here. And we'll have Lizzie here, or I'm showing the wrong view. We'll have Lizzie here, so she'll make sure that they stay nice and protected. Right, Liz? And she's off. So the one thing we do have, just in case it's windy, because it is windy quite often these days, and we're having some crazy storms, so we make sure that this is locked. So they have a screen door in here that allows air to flow through and a little bit of sunshine. And we just have a ratchet strap here, and we ratchet it closed. So in case there's a big storm and we're not around to close up the door right away, everything will still be closed and it won't flap open, or nothing will happen to the chicks when they're inside. So we have no cattle left here at all in any of our pens. They've all been moved out to grass. We have a few cattle that are just over the hill pretty much in our neighbor's pasture. We have the cattle that we saw in this pasture that's really close. We have some cattle in Innisfree, south of Vermilion, north of Manville, so spread all over into 8 different groups. And we have our heifers that are just to the north and east of us, so they're quite close. And what Lizzie and I might do a little bit later is go for a ride and check on them. So we usually check on our cattle every 2 days or 3 days, depending on where they are. And when we go and check on them, we'll take some salt with us, we'll take some mineral, so they're able to get those extra nutrients. Some of the pastures are quite high in some of those minerals and nutrients, and others might be a little less. So we want to make sure we're maintaining those levels of nutrients within the cattle at a constant range. So we just supplement them with salt and mineral, and their mineral will also change depending on if they're cows or if they're bulls or if they're breeding and if they have calves. So it's kind of like people, where you'll tailor it to your certain environment or your certain preference, so whatever you're wanting to get out of it. So we have our sheep that we're going to go take a look at right now. We saw the ram earlier. He's in with the horse and the cattle, so we keep our ram separate, just like we keep our bulls separate. But because sheep have such a shorter breeding season, it takes 145 days for the ewe to first be bred until the lamb is born. So a really short breeding season compared to cattle, which is 9 months. So we really have to be careful and make sure that the ram is not exposed to the ewes in between those times, because having a second set of lambs can be, within 1 year, can be really hard on a ewe. And we want them to put all of their effort into raising just one set of lambs, whether that's a single lamb like some of our ewes have done, or raising 3. So imagine raising 6 babies in a year. That would take a lot out of them. So we really try and make sure the ram stays far away from the ewes. But in our case, it's not really difficult, because the ram really loves the horse. And even though their pen is just adjacent to the ewe's pen, the ram doesn't really bother with the ewes too much, especially if they're not cycling. So as long as the horse is there, the ram will stay kind of where he's supposed to. It only makes it a little bit tricky when I want to go riding and then I have to take the horse away and I have to put the ram in a separate pen that he can't get out of, or he'd follow us to wherever. Oh, hi, Liz. And Lizzie will usually come with us on these rides. It's a nice day, and especially if we ride past any sloughs. So sloughs are just big ponds. She'll love to go for a swim in them. And she can keep up really well, even though Great Pyrenees kind of look like slower dogs that are a little bit more relaxed and not as active. She can keep up to the horse very well. And when I go riding, we don't always walk. We like to go at a little bit faster. So Lizzie keeps up really well. And sometimes she's not even tired by the end of it, where the horse and I are exhausted. Sheep, sheep. So here are the sheep, and just like the cattle, they are underneath the shade. Two are in the shade as well. Oh, we have a few escapees. So we have one of the lambs got out, so she's trying to get back in. And we also have Rosie who got out. Hi, Rosie. Come here. Come here, Rosie. So Rosie's in with the rest of the sheep full time. Come here, Rosie. She's no longer being bottle fed. We sort of decided once she got to the end of her milk replacer bag, she was done. So now she's getting to enjoy all the grass and being with the other sheep. She's still really friendly with us. She'll come when we call her, but is bonding with the other ones a bit better. So we'll try and put this lamb in. I might need 2 hands for that, so we might do it a bit later. But you can see the difference in the lambs in comparison to Rosie. So this is a wooled sheep. This is what all of our sheep look like except for Rosie. And Rosie isn't ours, she is our neighbor. So the lamb in front of me is a Suffolk cross, so it is a wooled breed. And then Rosie over here is a haired breed. She's a Mouflon American Black Belly cross. So you can really see the difference. And as Rosie's gotten older, she's also, her coat color has kind of lightened a little bit. So it used to be all darker. So the color on her neck used to be the color that the rest of her torso was. So she's kind of lightened as she's gotten older. And she's also starting to get little nubs, so I can feel them. So little horns. I'm not sure how big they're going to get, since this breed still is fairly new. Some little horns, and they're just starting to poke out. Hi, Liz. So I'll probably put these guys in once I'm off camera, since it'll be a little bit easier with 2 hands. But I'll show you how the sheep get their water. So we talked about the dugout with the cattle and a sort of semi-natural water source. Where with the sheep, we have a sort of a man-made or farmer-provided water source. So we have a water tank, and we use the rainwater that we collect off the buildings. And we fill up this little portable water tank, and then we just fill up these tubs for the sheep. So that's how they get their water. And if they were in any of the other pens, it's really convenient because we can just empty this or let them drink it down and then move it to wherever it has to go. So the sheep were in the pasture or their little pen that was just down the hill from here, and we moved them up to give that pasture a rest and let them get some new grass. And so they'll eat this one, and then we'll be able to move them back. So that's why it's called rotating. So we do rotations, rotational grazing with the cattle and the sheep. And that allows the animals to be a bit happier with the fresh grass, and then the pastures are able to take a bit of a break and regrow. And with the sheep, because they are quite good at staying around the yard, cattle will be a bit more adventurous and go for nice long walks. But the sheep are really good about sticking around their home base. They'll even put themselves in at night if their gate is left open. So we can let them out, and they'll eat some of the grass around the bins if we want to clean any of that up. And then at night, we just have to make sure we leave the gate open, and they'll put themselves in. So these are the rest of our lambs. So there's the lamb outside, and then Rosie. And then these other lambs are almost getting really difficult to tell apart from their mothers. They're pretty much just as tall. Some are just a little bit shorter, but they're really reaching the same height. So they've done really well this year, and especially with all the rain that we've had, it makes for good pastures, and that means the milk that the ewes are producing is really rich, so the lambs grow very quickly. There. So we'll kind of look at, Lizzie, get out of the way. I get confused with the animals, there's so many of them. So this is what the face of one of the ewes looks like. So we're just going to see, you can kind of see the wool on her neck and sort of the way it's kind of pleated into sections. And then she has a bit more hair on her face. So we're going to compare that when we look at Rosie. And we have another ewe who's getting very nice and close to me right now. And the dog. So you can see, if I move, there we go. You can see how the wool is kind of in very tight little curls on the ewes. And some of the sheep will have different, their wool will be structured differently. So some will be in tighter curls like that. But really it's separated into sections. And then when we look at Rosie, she has no sections. It's just one big continuous body of hair. So it's just like a dog or a cat. And her hair is quite wiry too. So when you feel Rosie compared to when you feel one of the other ewes, it's really quite different. So Lizzie's enjoying the shade that she has right there. And while we're here, we'll check out the corn. We always try to aim for knee-high by the 4th of July corn. That's something that a lot of American farmers go for, or corn producers. And because we're so much further north than that, our corn was knee-high by the 4th of July, so we're very happy with that. And the corn that we grow isn't sweet corn. It's not for people to eat. It's quite starchy, but it is feed corn, and the cattle really love it. Cattle, sheep. So it's quite a bit taller than knee-high now. Head-high, I guess, depending on who you are. But it's growing really well, so we have some of the stalks. It hasn't started, no ears look like they've started yet, but probably by mid-August we'll start to see some ears of corn. And we can rip those open and look at that in comparison to sweet corn. It's pretty similar in terms of what it looks like, it's just very different with the taste. Liz? So thanks everyone for tuning in for today's tour. I think that's about it. We kind of get fewer and fewer animals as we go through the summer because everyone's moved out cattle-wise, or they're all spread around, or I know that we've been sort of doing a lot of the same things, but wanted to show you the garden since that was new and we hadn't done that, and it's been growing really well. Also, don't forget about Alberta Open Farm Days. We are opening our farm to visitors on Saturday, August 15th. So make sure you watch for that. Registration is required. We can't have any drop-ins because of COVID-19 restrictions. So we'll have that out. So watch mostly this coming week because we will have some news regarding that. And also, if you're wanting to take part in a cooking class with Get Cooking Edmonton, they're going to be featuring our leg of lamb. And we actually have some lamb available right now, so it's perfect timing. So you can get yours and you can either take the class and cook along live with them, or you can take the class and make the recipe on your own time and at your own pace. So if you're interested in any of that, please let us know, or if you have any other questions. Lizzie and I are going to say thanks for watching and have a great Sunday. Bye everyone.